Okay, here's my rant. I think I've had one every day, but this is. I want to talk back to the people who are saying, I don't care what the government knows about me. So I would start with apologies to Pastor Niemöller by saying, first they came for the whistleblowers, but I was not a whistleblower, so I did not speak up. The NSA spying scandal, this whole thing, has produced pretty wide-range reactions. But most people who have a strong opinion about it seem to be in one of two camps. There are those who are outraged with our federal government and its NSA, and they say there's no justifiable reason for average American citizens to be under such high scrutiny from intelligence agencies. And on the other end of the spectrum, there are those who say, hey, so what? I don't care if the government's listening to my calls, reading my emails, seeing who I text. I've done nothing wrong. I've lived an exemplary life. I have nothing to worry about, nothing to hide. This latter group make up the people, perhaps even more than the NSA itself, who are threatening political dissent in America. Seriously. If you think you've got nothing to worry about, nothing to hide, and by the way, feel free to call in and try and tell me that that's the case. You are a bigger problem than the NSA. You may live an exemplary life. You may have no problems with your government right now. But at some point in time, somewhere down the road, our government may do something. It could be something really big, something really small, to which you object. And if you stand up and speak out about that perceived injustice, or decide to run for political office to help correct that perceived injustice, and this new toxic and all-knowing government you are standing up to knows that just a few years ago you did something online that was bad, or you had an affair, you said something disparaging or others, it can now use that information to silence you, blackmail you, or stop you from becoming politically active. Say 5 years ago, you accidentally visited a neo-Nazi website online or attended a meeting at which, unbeknownst to you, there was a radical or even a criminal or a terrorist. And back then, years ago, you mentioned that meeting to a friend in an email. If the government had this information and wanted to maliciously go after you today, they could just drop by your house one day and simply say, we can assert you have connections to this individual, and we're willing to smear you in public with it. Maybe even to arrest you for it, even if we'd never be able to get a conviction. You really sure you want to speak out against us? I mean, this is pretty much what happened to President Obama when his association to Bill Ayers first came to light. Republicans in Washington pounced on him for being associated with that radical leader, even though the two had only met briefly a couple of years earlier, and Obama had long ago disavowed Ayers. A high-profile presidential candidate like Obama, with a massive institutional support, millions of dollars, United States senator, can withstand, this kind of charge of consorting with the enemy. But could you? And that's just the beginning. This sort of thinking that it's just fine if the government knows pretty much everything you've ever done sets up the possibility of a far more serious form of tyranny. This is the really important stuff. One of the most corrosive yet subtle forms of government abuse of their citizens is the everybody is a criminal model. Students of the law and students of history know of it as selective prosecution. There are two steps necessary to put this into place. First, you pass a law that pretty much everyone has broken or will break at some point in their lives, but nonetheless has serious consequences while assuring everybody it's only for serious offenders. You actually only use it against serious offenders, and you don't enforce it widely. Over time, pretty much everyone's going to break that law, and could be, if the government ran amok or wanted to take that person out, subject to prosecution. Everybody's a criminal. Second, build the database. The only other thing necessary to put the heavy boot heel of an oppressive government on the necks of those people an out-of-control government doesn't like is a database which includes the proof against every citizen who has ever broken that law. For example, Look at our nation's copyright laws and the current laws regarding downloading music and video, or even articles, photos, or web pages from the internet. It's pretty much impossible these days to find anyone with access to the internet who hasn't at least once illegally downloaded a song, a movie, a picture, some other piece of copyrighted material, emailed a cute kitty picture to a friend, a picture that was copyrighted. In other words, nearly everybody is a criminal. Right now, our government only rarely prosecutes people who do this sort of thing. But if they wanted to, if another Richard Nixon or worse became president and he wanted to take you out, and he had a copy of everything you've ever downloaded or emailed or forwarded, you could spend a good chunk of your life in prison. And odds are nobody would even notice. Seriously. Criminal penalties for first-time offenders of our copyright laws. 5 years in prison, up to 5 years in prison, up to $250,000 in fines. Civil penalties can run into many thousands of dollars, more thousands of dollars, and in damages and legal fees. The minimum penalty is $750 a song. Now, say this new version of Richard Nixon, let's call him Peter King, knows that 5 years ago you went on to a music website and downloaded some music illegally, or you got it from a friend, an email, and you forwarded it to another friend. And say this new Nixon, President King, also knows that through monitoring your emails, you plan to show up at a political protest over the weekend. Occupy or Tea Party, doesn't matter. Tyranny is nonpartisan. Remember, you had left-wing tyranny, Joe Stalin, right-wing tyranny, Adolf Hitler. Boom! The police are knocking down your door and you're in jail before breakfast and before the protest. Think it's impossible? Variations on that were used against protesters at the Republican National Convention in 2008 before they even got out of their house. And variations on that theme are used daily in oppressive nations around the world. You violated a tax law, or you violated the law that requires you to register your change of address. These are common examples, the former typically from the Middle East, the latter typically from Asian countries. And here's the biggest crime against a democratic republic that people who say, I don't care what they know, are committing. By consenting to the government gathering information on them, these people are consenting to the government collecting information on all of us. If enough people consent or just fail to dissent, and that apparent national consensus sets the stage for the soft tyranny of selective prosecution. This is how most oppressive regimes around the world work, both modern and historic. When everybody is a criminal or everybody has something to fear being exposed and the government knows everything about everybody, that government has the absolute power to totally shut down dissent or political activism. By failing to speak out against wide net data collection without Fourth Amendment required warrants or probable cause, sworn under oath that the data is being collected on a crime or criminal, these people are helping establish what Edward Snowden called the architecture of tyranny. They're setting up a power structure that's just waiting for the next Richard Nixon or worse. Congressman Peter King recently lied about what Glenn Greenwald reported, and then on the basis of that lie said that King should be arrested and prosecuted. If somebody like Peter King ever sits in the Oval Office, the next person he wants to throw in prison could be you. We have to stand up and speak out. This is truly a Pastor Niemöller moment.